Good afternoon and welcome back to Breaking Waves. On today's show, we have two very special guests. We have Asiata Vaoliko, who was broadcast host to our leading Samoan podcast, Tautaiae, and also the head teacher for Samoan Language School, Bluwave. And we also have Lemoa Henry Fesuluai, who is a professional teacher at the University of Auckland for the Faculty of Arts, Pacific and Māori Studies, and also former teacher at Mangere College. How are you both this morning? How are you this morning? This afternoon, sorry, Lemoa.
Very well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I need to try and change the bio for that. It just seems like there's a lot of titles, and we're not doing much justice to those titles. So, thank you very much.
You're being very humble there, Lemoa. Thank you very much. And how are you this afternoon, Asiata?
Yeah, te manuia. I'm good. I'm excited. Looking forward for your harsh and hard questions. But it's good to see the also Tololis of Lemoa. He's a professor of the Samoa.
Professor of we have a wonderful professor of two very cultural literate people on our show, which I'm very excited about because I'm always excited to go into history. On today's episode, we wanted to cover the Matai system and deconstructing the Matai system and understanding it. There are a lot of people in the diaspora, Samoans abroad, who are still trying to understand the system and what it means, what it entails, and how it was formed in the first place. So my first question to you, Lemoa, is what is the origins of the Matai system? How was it formed?
Yeah, just before we do dive into that question, I think it's really good just to give a disclaimer that, that the perspective that I provide would be, it's very limited and it's just one person's lens and it's one person's opinion. And again, I'll be free to stand corrected and next to the likes of Asiata and some other key members in society, both politically, culturally, and socially. We all have our different interpretations of the formation of a Matai. Linguistically, Matai comes from the term two things, mata and I, which refers to that, e matai uma ia whaamoemoe o a inga matangata. So, people look upon them as leaders. The origins of the term Matai, it derives from that action and that description of the role of a Matai as a forefront and taking a lot of central leadership in family and village affairs. Archaeologically and historically, when our stories where we navigated the seas and then we found Samoa, and then our early forefathers, obviously they developed a system and developed a set structure, which required some leadership at the end of the day. Which meant that, there were always key people at the forefront, key people leading these discussions and leading these affairs. My belief at times that the names were just everyday names, but over time we've sort of developed them to become something of significance, something of the chiefly status, and something where we've divided them into our atawhaiwha, our tamali'i, our tula fale, and then amongst the tula fale, the sa'o, the tu'ua, the tula fale ali. Over time that's developed, and that's developed because of either marriages or leosinga whengainga between two families. That's developed over the seeking of power over time, and a lot of our names will see to that. It's even developed over civil warfare. And that's, in my opinion, how it has become. It's evolved over the time, and it's still evolving now. And the significance of its formation is that Samoa always had a structure. Samoa always had some sense of stability. And Samoa's, that's like the saying goes, e tala tautonga, e tala tofi Samoa. There's always been that inheritance. We've always had a system that we've come into that was derived from our early ancestors.
Thank you for that, Lemoa. Asiata, what would your response be to that question?
Well, but before I added my 2 cents into it, see, didn't I just justify what I called him a professor? The guy just nailed me. But yeah, no different from what Lemoa was talking about. Matai is somebody to look up to in terms of he's a leader. He has all the character, the attributes, and the attitude of somebody that can be able and have the ability to lead a family, organizations, and now the modern world that we are living in now. As the original of the name, what Lemoa was talking about, Matai, o le tangata e mata I ai mea. He's the person that every eyes looked upon, and that happens in our Samoa, happens to be the chief of a family or the family. And it comes with responsibilities.
Right.
But with the questions, the origin of it, yes, it is somebody that have all the ability to lead the family and also can protect and provide for the family.
Right. So that sounds like Lemoa and Asiata, a very huge responsibility, right? So there's a lot of Samoans abroad who I would like to say they see that as a cultural glamour. They like seeing the salfa'is, they like seeing the ceremonies, but they have a minimal understanding of what those responsibilities are. So for you both, I'll ask you, Asiata, first. What is the requirement to become a Matai title, or to receive a Matai title, sorry, and what does it look like in the modern world?
Hana. Well, my own personal understanding, based on the what I've seen from young age, and also hear from what's being passed by our leaders and ancestors and parents, great grandparents. Your road to success or becoming a leader is through service. Now, the pule that is referring, this proverb is referring to is Matai. Because in Samoa, there's a saufainga atina, saufainga aumanga, and there's a saufainga le pule. So, olo walala ile pule, whamatai, is through your tautua, your service. So that's the formula from back then. Now, some people are entitled because obviously it's your through lineage, through blood, through connections, close connections. Now, some back in the days, they received the title through what we call matu palapala, something, a profound respect. I don't know, Lemoa can help me with the proper terms of in English of the translations of matu palapala, which is, one person give it to you through a good service that you've done or something good that you've done, and that's just specifically for you, your children and your people that cannot have it,
Right.
right after you, and then that's it. And then there's also another terms called ingangato, which means given by all heart, free for you, and whoever follows, from Olaufa now. But to answer the question, as that was the cultural way of it from back in the days. Now, there's a lot of changes nowadays.
Yes.
A lot of changes.
Times have changed.
Absolutely.
The world
absolutely.
has changed.
And as much as some other times we disagree with what it seems to be, but we have to accept the changes. And sometimes it's out of our control, because, and I hate to say, because it happens to my family and some, of my own families, which is we seems to easily give matais because through financial support. Nowadays, kere mai lo kupe lea matulanga fa pena ya manga fa makayo kama lea, because lima malosi and things like that. So it's happening now. But in order for you to get a matai from the system, it was from ancient time, as through your
Service.
through your service. If I'm a lot when the pule and the high chiefs or the sa of the ainga, as Lemoa was talking about, or the tu'ua ainga, if I'm once they're satisfied with your service, and then they will be like, okay, we are willing to bestow this title to you, and also titles as well. Some may lucky to get straight to the main titles or the paramount chief or high chiefs, but some they started with the low-ranking titles and make your way up. So yeah, it was selected back then, but then now, I guess it's just some nowadays a father will want his young son to be a matai, just to hold on to and the continuations of the matai, just in case he died, for example, and then he will live this life with doubting that his son or his daughter may not be able to get the title that he's receiving.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we're living in a time where money runs the world, so it makes sense as to why a matai title is based on a monetary value of how to give back to the villagers. Lemoa, what about yourself? What's your understanding of the requirements to getting a matai title?
I think just reiterating what Asiata has just discussed, definitely the tautua factor and especially the multiple changes in today's society. Just to extend from that, it's really whether the elders see, are you fit enough to uphold the status of the title? Because we also have to look at the component that it's not about the one person, it's about the collective that they represent. Asiata mentioned that, you're lucky if you go straight to those top titles. And, the Asiata title is one of the top titles in Samoa, and hence why he has that top chief orator title. But if you get like, the Lemoa title is not of equal status as the Asiata title. So I have to start from the rank, from the bottom. But regardless of what it is, a matai is a matai. A matai is a representative of the family. And a matai needs to show that they are, one, if you're an orator, you need to be good at the vernacular. You need to be good at the vocal, the verbal, and understand the cultural nuances as well as the relationships, the va. It's not just a name. I remember Taua Anuu, one of the sessions that we had, he said, Shakespeare asks, what's in the name? A Pālangi can never answer, but a Samoan can. And when you break and unpack the name, you realize there's history, there's genealogy, there's many multiple factors. And that's one thing that a person about to embark on taking a matai needs to appreciate and understand. that there's a holistic, backing of a Matai. And it's the requirements are tested, but then they need to be attained as a Matai. So that's then that just adds on to what Asiata, Chief Orator Vai Malay Asiata has discussed.
Right. So it's not a little checkbox, it's not a little tick box of what you can, you are A, B, C. It's more of how you benefit the collective. So the wider village, your wider family. That's amazing. Since I'm sitting with two very, well literatured people about our Samoan culture, I wanted to ask you, do you both have any shared histories related to the paramount titles of Samoa that you could share with us today? So I'll start with you, Lemoa, if that's okay.
Yeah, paramount titles we know from the cultural and the oral history around Billy's children, where we have Ana Tua Masanga Atua, and then we also have a lot of the orators seeking their independence and their and their statesmanship at the time, with the division of of Pule and Tuumua. And then, certain people trying to ensure that they gain the four main paramount titles of the Tuiatua, the Maliatua, the Faitamaswa Li'i and the Tama and the Nato Aitele titles, as well as the Atua. So there's many versions. But what most Samoans can agree to is that those four main titles are of royalty. And from that royalty, filtered out to these noble families that we understand. And every Samoan, every person who has a Samoan blood, whether it's 1/8, 1/10, or fully blooded, can connect themselves and link themselves to those noble and also the royal connection. And that royal connection was purposely done by our ancestors to ensure that no Samoan or no Pacific Islander was left at a lowly status, but was always elevated, and they had some sort of regal status about them. And it's not to show to be boastful or to be arrogance, but it's to value your history and value that the footsteps that our ancestors have basically paved the way for many of us. And and without saying, we all have a connection, we all have a right to that title, but we all have it'll come down to the selection process. It comes down to the talanoa. It comes down to those key titles in that place representing that family, and that their whole deliberation is happening, not just one person coming and saying, okay, I'm going to be this person. It's really important too, because it's reflected in the whaalupenga, where you hear they say tama ma'ainga, ainga malato tama. That one tama, or that one paramount title, is connected and selected and agreed upon and blessed by the ainga, the many noble families of Samoa. But also, the noble families are responsible for that selection. If
Right.
something goes wrong with that tama, it falls on the tama as well as the family. So, our ancestors were quite smart that they made sure everyone was at an equal footing, but there was that shared responsibility to ensure that when they do the selection, it's upheld by the individual as well as the collective.
Thank you for sharing that, Lemoa. What about yourself, Asiata?
Yeah, no difference from what Lemoa shared, but I will share from our Motu Savai, since he's from Savai and he's more of sharing from Upolu. Yes, we also do in Samoa, each villages and Itu Malo constituencies have and has their own nopu, and if not royal, we call it high chiefs or titles. See, for us, our Motu Savai, we also have what we call ao, and Opolu, and then we call Savai or Motu ao, which is it's still the similar. It's just the way they call it, and the loalo that they give to it. So we've got Dao Tono Mai Pea and Lilo Mai, which me and Lemoa share that as well, and as well as the Tono Mai Pea. We also got the Yao Tangaloa. So these are the noble high-ranking titles that we use Samoan, our motu Savai, and even the whole of Samoa, we're seeking, connected to it. Because in the Fa Samoa, if a tula fale orators don't or do not satisfy with how the high ranking of their high chief back then they seems to go and find a chief or find a bloodline of a paramount or a noble or a royal family from a different village or a different itumalo and bring it, bring that person here to make him become their royal or their noble, or and the fasa moa sa ili fa penga ia tupu o itumalo. Ale fa maria inga kele pe kaule fia kula fale o le ku malo le la ku kamala ye, their tama ainga. Then there seems to go out of the boundary and trying to make, all means connections to somehow bring that person into so that's when sometimes we have wars within the within the itumalo, and I'll bring Ana as one of the examples. There was a time that Ana Sangate was reigning in the whole of Ana, but then if you fear, not everyone was satisfied with it. So one of the two brave brothers from the Ana Itumalo still went out of the boundary and seeking for another child that they heard, his lineage. They prefer him because his lineage was sort of a royal bloodline. So they went and stole him, from Safata and brought him back to Lemoa and called him Tuya Anadangi, which means a child from heaven. And literally they went and stole him from. So, but then these paramount names, till now, they're very, noble and royal names. And that's how some, were they were Osailinga Malo or Samoa from back then in the days. And as Lemoa mentioned, that was one of the main reasons how they were in war. Because of who this Ikumalo will want to rule Samoa. And then the more, if you win, you get expansion in terms of your ngafa, your bloodline, and land.
Right.
So those are the rewards of when you victoriously win a ward with back in the days.
Wow, that's something new that I've just learned today from both of you, which is really good to know. And just upon our discussion, I'm realizing these systems have very high values. And a question I wanted to ask you both is, what are your thoughts about Matai titles that are given for commercial opportunities by people who are not of Samoan blood? There's a lot of opinions around this. Does it lower the value of the Matai system? Does it change the way that we see it? I'll start with you, Lemoa. What are your thoughts on how that's been implemented in the modern day?
Can I just go back to the previous question? Remember how we're going back to the lower rank? That's why I went to the two more, because it's a generalized, but I left the high Savai Matai Tula Fale to discuss the Savai, how.
He's just worried because his wife might for not talking to him.
And you got to cover those bases. That's another good thing about being a Matai. You have to also worry about the inside and out and external.
His wife was like,
anyways,
you're not talking about my village in Okolu, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And it's also because my Vaimoso family might be watching too, and my Malia family. So yeah. It's not a cheek to get a Matai from them as well. So just just to cover the bases. I think one matai is enough. I'm not like Asiata, you can afford 5 matais. I can have
No,
one.
no. I think you're talking
And on
about.
that note,
I think you're talking. I'm talking to the wrong Asiata. I think you're talking to Asiata Po New.
and on that note, while we're on the commercial factor,
Yeah.
I think it's contextual, and we really have to, see it case by case, because not every matai that's been done has been for the monetary and the fame and the glamour. There have been Matai title, and I thought that too until there was a discussion about the Matai titles that were given to some of the tour and the tour players, and there was one particular individual who wasn't given a Matai title, but he was in the Samoa at the time. And the people in the discussion were from the village, but they were from the other parts of that same village or same island. And they were like quite disappointed with that family for not bestowing a title on that tour player. And it came across because that tour player uplifted the village, uplifted the nation, and they felt that he did a good tour. That's how they viewed it. And well, the other side of that coin was a lot of them were saying, oh, no, he hasn't deserved it. He hasn't earned it. So again, it comes down to interpretation, and it comes down for me personally, the tautua factor. Have they actually done a modern form of tautua? How have they represented the village and the collective? Um, I don't agree with getting a Matai title just because you're famous, or just because you're just because of other commercial factors and business related matters. But when you unpack and the reasons why, the village have used that Matai title, one, to connect, but also the indigenous factor is that's how we landmark our events. So for one example, John Key got the To'osavili. And to me, that was Falea Lili's version of landmarking that time, as a significant time in Samoa's history, that he visited their shores and visited their village. But again, I don't agree with the commercial side. But if there are some cultural factors, and if there is a huge talanoa, because those talanoa will be around. I don't think like the village will just go, oh yeah, he's coming, let's give him this name. There'll be a lot of discussion, and those discussion are spurred from our values, and and honoring the whaalupenga, and honoring the village's reputation within the district. So again, I don't disagree, but if it does happen, then my challenge is for everyone: try and unpack and try contextualize, because then you'll get the actual meaning and purpose behind it.
Absolutely. And that is a lot of the perception by people aboard, oh, just someone famous comes and then they get a Matai title, but I'm struggling as a Samoan to understand or even receive one or be bestowed one. So it's a very hard topic to, conceptualize. And I like that you said we have to take it case by case. What's your thoughts on that, Asiata?
Before I share my 2 cents, I just wanted to clarify with Lemoa. Is that right? Were you part of the bestowing of the Vavasamana for Winston Peters?
That's not my village. That's how that's not my village.
Oh,
And I wasn't at the time.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
no, sorry, I thought you were, Peter Whip. Well, yes. I truly support what Lemoa was talking about in terms of, at first, to be honest, I disagree with it. I disagree with it, strongly disagree with it, because it was unfair for other people to go through the process to earn a matai. Remember, when I firstly mentioned that was the formula to get a matai. Simple as that. All these other reasons, and then other ways of doing it. It was just all out of tangata. in English, it could out of courtesy or love but you know, Samoa but then nowadays, you know, as year gone by, and I've studied some of the reason why they've given Matai and things like that. There's many ways that we can now explain tautua, you know, and through sportsmanship as well. I put my right hand. I agree with that.
Right, it's putting on an international stage.
Yes, absolutely. That's a huge tautua for our tamawhanau that involve in sports. You know, but then on the other hand, to some of the, and I'll say specifically to our Pakia friends, you know, that no blood or lineage connections through Samoa, but they come, so some, because I remember Lemoa, the cases of one of the old cases of this prime example of which you've asked. It happens to the missionary guy named Koki. You remember that a Falealupo, Pocox. He visited Falealupo back in the days, and he helped, and he makes some promises of how to preserve the forest and things like that of Falealupo, because he foresaw that one day the oceans will kind of, you know, come onto the shores and blah, you know. Cut the long story short, he has done so much, and he promises Falealupo that he will go back to Hawaii or America, and then he promised that he will help into financially preserving, supporting and blah, blah, blah. So some of the Falealupo didn't believe him. They actually thought, this poor Palangi guy is, you know, fooling us. Another one, making a lot of promises. So he left. And I don't know how many years later on, he went back and fulfilled his promise. You know, so they bestow a title. In fact, he was one of the first to bestow the title Nafanua.
Right.
From Falealupo. From then till now, they still have that good connections. Yeah. Like Hawaii, because he's a professor or scientist, I can't remember now. But Hawaii, whatever, he's got a Samoan family, you know. So to me, I accept that, you know. And do his own title and blah, blah, blah in Hawaii. But the love and the sincerity of his heart
have service to
service to the people, and it developed. He was the person that get that awala papa through wire amano, you know. You have to go visit it in order to. But people that are living in Samoa and being to that bridge by ropes, it was built, I think, by that guy. So that's one example of a good case, a good one, a good case. John Key's case, yes, agree with Lemoa. You know, it was just with Falea Lili's own fato falainga out of their good heart. And yes, they have their reasons. They didn't just wake up in the morning and do it. Yeah. Probably a lot of
talking and
talanoa and discussions about it. Even Vavasa Manaya. But some people are Samoan seems it's a token of thanking them for something good that they've done.
Back,
But then just out of the blue, giving a Chinese man walking down the street with the hope that he will financially. I mean, I don't know. Then I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely a case by case. It's not. We're not going to try and say it's bad or bad. We have to look at it with context. Thank you so much, Lemoa and Asiata, for joining us on our show today. I've learned so much from both of your wealth of wisdom and experience. Any last words from you, Lemoa?
E whaftai lava mo le awanoa, Hana, tu sai foi ma e nei foi ia lau tautua. Lau tautua foi ia wal tātou atunu. It's not an easy forum. It's not an easy topic. But, you know, commend your bravery and the work that you're doing to ensure that we start to have these open discussions about sensitive topics within our Samoan culture and Samoan society. Apologies again for my misinterpretation of today's interview, and hopefully the next time we'll be in the studio, and then we can, tala noa a lot more. But yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity, and always humbling to have these tala noa. Whawhatai lava.
Thank you so much, Lemoa. We will absolutely have another episode, but
Yeah.
this time you'll be here with us,
Yes,
so
definitely.
you and Asiata can strangle each other in real life.
You know, in the Fat Samoa, before we close, in the Fat Samoa, if you missed a phone or a linu'u or a meeting or a culture in a way, you get penalized, right? So I think we should penalize him for the
Right,
he-
yeah.
when he comes to the studio, he has to bring a sala.
Yeah.
What
A
we call
sala.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're talking about the Fat Samoa and the Fat Matai, and then
Yeah, what would that sala look like?
KFC.
KFC, how does that sound, Lemoa?
It sounds like a red card. Remember when you get a red card? Red card means that you're off. You never come back onto the field. So I think that's the Salah that Asiata is talking about there, not wanting me back onto the show. But yeah, definitely, I dropped the ball on this one, and
Nah, you're right,
we'll
brother.
definitely make it up the next one.
Yeah. All jokes aside, thank you so much for your time, Lemoa. And we look forward to having another episode with you, which we will have in the near future. Asiata, any last words?
Nah, Vavtai, thanks to you. Keep it up. I think this topic needs to discuss more and more, and maybe we try and engage the likes of our new Matais, new people that went to Samoa and got their Matais, because and I want to compliment them for that, because I know this season or this time of or soifuanga, I've seen our whanau and our children, or if not, our brothers and sisters that were born and raised overseas, have their heart. O koe fo'i a kuanga i Samoa in terms of appreciating their culture through having their matai. And, believe it or not, and as Lemoa witness as well, we've just in the beginning of our lupe foi vau ese first semester, a lot. We've got even probably double the numbers that we've had from last year, and a lot of them our youth, our whanau, some of them the one that including the one that went to Samoa and got their matais, it planted something in their hearts that they wanted to now find out more about the Samoan and the language as well. I want to add that, but thanks very much for the time.
That's all right. Congratulations on your success and your tautua.
Thank you.
That's really good news to hear. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will be having more of these open episodes about Samoan culture and history. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Links will be on this video. Have a great afternoon. Breaking Waves.